Hey pals, today we are unboxing a new pair of Truman boots. And these are factory seconds, and they're from the Memorial Day sale. So we've got them for 30% off the already reduced price because they're factory seconds. The note on the factory seconds, so with Truman, you could always check the notes and it'll tell you what's wrong with it. The note was cut into the leather, surface cut into the leather near the welt. That's what it said. Or I think multiple, like 2 cuts. So I actually like that because it sounded like it was just a surface cut. It was not a it wasn't a stitching thing. I don't want any of the horrible wonky stitches that you can get from any factory second. But there you go. I love the sheepdog on the Truman branding. I grew up. I had a border collie, I had a sheepdog. She was awesome. So I really love. I love Truman. Okay, here we go. So it's packed really nicely. You hit with that smell. Really nice leather laces. These are not too thick. They're a lot of leather laces are too thick for the eyelets. Truman, they still have their Coach Rambler on the cards. They're never going to get rid of that leather. They say they do. They say they will, but they're not. Okay. Oh my God. Let's get rid of this box. These are my snakebite leathers. Now, if this wasn't snakebite, I don't think I would have bought them. But that leather just looks so cool. This will also be my first plain toe Truman. So it was time. I hope these are... We'll find out. Here we go. Okay. Gorgeous. This almost looks like the 20 last. Kind of has the bump toe. That just looks exquisite. Is that the cut that they're talking about? You see that? I don't know, but look at this. Look at this leather. This is so cool. Okay. Just the classic Truman lug. Oh, is that not a perfect boot? Clearly not. They're factory seconds. I feel like there's got to be a worse one on the other. There's got to be a worse cut. There. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Very superficial. Not worried about it structurally. Okay, a little bit of wear there, or from the machines and stuff. Wow. I mean, these are okay, hold on. That's a little ugly. That's a little... Yeah, they didn't describe that. I've seen worse, but that's a little bit of, wonky lasting. But does that matter? For this price, I paid no. But I do get why these were factory seconds, why they were on sale. If they weren't, sorry about the focus. If they weren't on sale, would I care? Great question. God, beautiful leather. I'm really happy with these for the price. If these were the full $500 or whatever the Snakebite runs, I think it's like $450 or $480. That would have been, I don't know. Yeah, I probably would have. That would bother me. That kind of like bunched up lasting. But I'm just gonna kick the hell out of these. Now, something I really like about this, there's just a really wide shelf for this flat welt. Really, really nice shelf. My Java Wax Flesh Trumans, which I've not covered yet. God, that's a beautiful boot. The variation in the leather's so nice. Okay, oh wait, that's the cut. I think that's the one that they're talking about. Very superficial. Now, will that sort of over time become a problem? A bigger problem? I don't think so. It's pretty surface. But if you get dirt in there, A lot of abrasion. What happened to these? So this must be on the sander. Well, yeah, because it looks like, yeah, it looks like this was during sanding, really towards the end. Bummer, but also I'm kind of glad. Yeah, so these have a cut top, no pull tab, no pull loop. Very, very nice. Beautiful variation. These are almost like a more fine version of Red Wings Copper Rough and Tough in a way, and a little bit darker. All right, let's yeah, there's another cut over there, right there. Ooh, there we go. So yeah, I would prefer that over like some of the mock toes were like, well, wonky, really bad lasting, or poor lasting, wonky stitches. Now they should have said that these are not lasted perfect. So that's it's not a bummer, but it's just like, well, of course I wish that wasn't the case, but does it matter? Will you notice it? I don't think so. Again, some boots will just come that way. But if you really hone in on it, you'll notice it. All right, I feel like they feel naked. Let's get the laces on, and we'll be right back. Okay, there we go. We've got them all laced up now. And I've had a few more moments to sort of lace these up and think about these boots. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. Truman's, a lot of times I think they're more like 5-inch than 6-inch service boots. These don't feel as short as some of the Trumans sometimes do, but it would be cool to see, just the Truman, Vince, feel like he kind of, he really sticks true to his guns and is sort of a very like stubborn, leader, which, is probably a great strength of his. And in some ways they've kind of nailed the service boot. They've certainly nailed their corner in it. They have made improvements. They've made changes. The leather on this is just incredible. But, that being said, I don't know. Should Truman switch up their patterns a little bit? They did just introduce the 56 last, the dress last. They've widened their 20 last, which I don't like, but I think some people will like it. See, that's nice stitching. Really nice stitching. I love that they've used tan stitches on this. It's just color-wise, this is just perfection. It really is perfection. Just the most beautiful, warm earth tones, browns, tan, antique brass. Look at that. This is a heavy boot. This is a whole lot of leather, and when I think about the value that I've got, what I paid for these, that's pretty remarkable. That's pretty stupendous. That's a lot of boot for 30% off the sale price. And this is the biggest sale I've ever seen Truman do. Maybe a few times they had 10 or 15% off of their factory seconds, but 30% off their seconds. I would not, I have no other excuse to warrant me buying another pair of boots right now. But I was really curious about the snakebite leather, and my curiosity has been satisfied. I'm just curious and excited to see how it'll break in. It's just chock full of waxes. It's just it almost feels a little bit like Horween's Chrome Pack leather. See, by the way, this is great cutting. You should use this piece on the inner side panel here. That is where you should use a piece of leather. Now, you could argue you shouldn't use it at all. That's okay. But if you're going to put that in a boot, not putting it here, you put it there on the inside up here. This is okay. This is not going to get a whole lot of wear anyway. There's not a lot of flexing here, so that's going to be just fine. God, look at that. Look at the striations on this. Semi-gusseted. Just classic 270 degree flat welt. Just look how much leather. The welt, the midsole, the heel stack, and the upper. Yeah, are Truman boots worth their MSRP? Yes and no. Yes, because they're incredible boots. But when you do get up to the $500, you start competing. You start competing with Nicks on sale, White's stitch down line on sale. If you go with the White's Cruiser, the stitch down boots, so those are, if you get them 20% off, those are around 500. That's an insane deal. But they look different. That you're getting very much the Pacific Northwest boot. With these, you're getting a bit more of a classic service boot, a bit more of a classic, Midwestern, coast to coast service boot. Not a traditional logging boot. Some more kind of cut abrasion there. I don't know what happened to these. What happened to this pair of boots? I mean, clearly must have been someone who's newer or just having a bad day. But I don't know why. Is it that they just used leather that was already a little bit messed up and they kind of used it to train people on? I don't know. But, this isn't perfect, but my God, is it amazing for pretty much half off the MSRP. A little bit more. But basically, Truman boots at 50% off. New, never worn. So that's pretty amazing. You'll notice that this rubber gets a whole lot thicker here. So it's thin, 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 and it widens out. That is very interesting. And it does that here. So that is on purpose. They put more rubber in the front because that's where a lot of wear happens. Right? I think that's what that must be. Huh. If so, that's these are Truman Commando soles. I think that is the case, and that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Put a little bit more rubber here. Looks a little funny when you kind of zero in on it, but that being said, then why wouldn't there be a little bit more rubber here? Well, I guess because that would actually change the way it fits, and this doesn't matter because this is all set in. Huh. Very cool. Let me know what you think. Yeah, that's what the actual rubber does. Brilliant. That is brilliant. Okay. Yeah, this might bother me the most out of anything aesthetically, but it's less problematic than some of the cuts in the leather structurally, but it bothers me more. But not a big deal. But it doesn't look great. Yeah, if it said wonky lasting, I probably would have hesitated for a few more and someone else would have bought it. So that's what you get. Truman factory seconds. Not freaking bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, not bad at all. Gorgeous. Truman freaking boots. Yeah, grateful to have Truman around. I think they're an amazing company. I think they have an amazing niche. They're, not many other boot brands are kind of right in that mid-range, making great boots in the USA. Parkhurst was there for a minute, but now they're making everything in Spain and Portugal. What other boot brand is that mid-level, making incredible boots, but not at the Pacific Northwest level, but not at sort of, entry Thoroughgood Red Wing? There's not many other. Is there any other boot brands that are at that stage? Who am I not thinking of? I mean, you can argue like some of the Moccasin, the Goki, and the Quaddy. I guess they're making $500 boots, but yeah, is there anybody else? Chippewa's gone. God, I mean, how many boots are even being made in the U.S. right now? Right, you've got White's, Nicks, Wesco, Drew's, Frank's, JK. Is that about it for, Danner? Okay. Is that about it for the Pacific Northwest? Truman, of course. Then you go to the Midwest, and it's pretty empty. You got Red Wing, Thoroughgood, Wolverine, Russell. forget where Goki is, but Goki, man. And then you go to the East Coast and you've got Quaddy, Rancourt, Yucatan, LL Bean. Yep, LL Bean. They're still doing that. Pretty amazing. Of course, you got the Texas ones. You got Rios or Mercedes. I'm sure there's a few others in Texas. Thursday makes some boots in Texas. Of course, there's lots of cowboy boot makers and boutique cowboy boot makers. But man, who are we missing? I know you're probably yelling at the screen. Just yeah, drop a line. I mean, I'm trying to think about my boots. Yeah, who else is making boots in the U.S.? Not many. It's pretty wild. Oak Street Bootmakers. Chicago. That's Midwest. Oh my God. You know, you got the small boutique stuff, Unsung, making boots in Nashville. Of course, Roll Club, all those really high end stuff, Creosote, but Truman's sort of like in a world of their own. There's no one else making like an interesting leather service boot. Really, Oak Street are the closest to their level, right? And Oak Street's a little bit more affordable than Truman. They tend to be, at least. Anyway, we could ramble on and on about this stuff, but yeah, that's who you get from Truman with their factory seconds. So, are their factory seconds worth it? Of course. Should you get a factory second? If it's your first Truman and if you got the money, don't. You know, why do that? Why do that to yourself? You know, they're a great company. The boots are well worth their MSRP. And you could also just wait. I mean, in Memorial Day sale, they had 20% off stock boots, you know, so lots of factory firsts. But, you know, but if you're like me and you've had a bunch of Trumans, you own two. I own two now. I've had at least four. I don't need any boots. It's like, yeah, you see one that's interesting in your size and it's pretty much half off, you know, go for it. But maybe you have a little bit less money. You're trying to stay in that Red Wing range. You can't really convince yourself to jump up to that next level, but you do see a factory second or some kind of sale. It's like, that's the time. Get in there, buddy. Drew's boots. Drew still makes dumb stuff in the U.S., but it's really through, I think they make them through Nick's. But they make a lot of their stitch down boots in Mexico. Some of their new logger boots and contractor boots in Mexico. Those are very, very nice. But why did I think of Drew's? That's an amazing boot for $350. Okay, we freaking did it. Great boots. Very, very grateful for these. They're really nice. I think they'll break in really nicely. You know, there's something comforting about just buying a boot with the same last, knowing it'll fit you. Of course, you never know. You know, they're made by humans. Things change. But there you go. Truman Factory Seconds. So freaking cool. Super grateful. And, okay, hope you enjoyed. Have a lovely day.